All right, Shalom. We are the Hebrew Israelites from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone. We're here to give all praises, glory, and honor to
Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash.
Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and our fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on our highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like it to the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, we say Shalom. All right, we got this article from Newsbreak. We want to start off with our first lesson. We'll put a link to this article in the description box for you to read at your perusal. But we'll go through it as we're in these end times and dealing with prophecy and how these things tie into prophecy, all of the events that are happening from day to day. All right, so this article is from Newsbreak and it's titled Panic as Deadly Infection Outbreak on 133-Day Cruise Leaves Over 100 People Sick. All right, it starts off, around 100 passengers and crew members on a cruise ship have fallen ill from an outbreak of a potentially deadly sickness bug. The 33-day world trip has been thrown into disarray with some suffering symptoms, including vomiting and diarrhea in the middle of the ocean. Man. German firm AIDA, or AIDA Cruises, global spanning voyage departed from Hamburg on November 10th with scheduled stops including the UK, US, Japan, Mexico, and South Africa. Passengers began displaying symptoms of the norovirus after stops in U.S. ports including Boston, New York, and Miami, said the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And you know, when they're involved, it's always some crap involving what do they call them amongst GMS, Center for Disease Creation. You know, it says at least 95 of the 2007 customers on board and 6 of the 640 crew members reported being ill during the voyage. Staff on the ship isolated infected passengers after the outbreak and initiated cleaning procedures, according to the report. It says the journey is due to conclude in March of 2026 when it returns to Hamburg, according to an itinerary on its website. Anybody want to get something?
Yep. And yeah, I got something real quick. This is Matthew's chapter 24 and verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
It says, "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places."
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the point I wanted to grab was and pestilences. All right, in the scripture, which this article is outlines, showing a sign that our Lord Yahushua has left, for us in the scriptures, to know the type of times that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually a sign, of the end, man. When was the last time you heard an infectious outbreak on a cruise ship?
Mm-hmm.
People are out on vacation. You probably got people that are doing business trips. Whole families out there on vacation. This wasn't something you would hear about like 10 years ago, 10 to 8 years ago, man. Which goes to show you that the times are shifting. The times are changing.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord is having his word be made manifest.
I got something real quick.
Okay.
This is in the Edamon. This is pestilence. You got it? Okay,
Yeah, my
okay.
phone's low, so.
It says an infectious or contagious disease, fatal epidemic, all right, plague, epidemic, all right, an unwholesome, it's an atmosphere condition, infection. So that's pretty much the point.
Mm-hmm.
So the Lord, of course, the Bible, is speaking, and the Lord is, word be true and every man a liar.
Yep.
There's a point I have in Deuteronomy 28. It says, verse 21, it says, "And the Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee until he have consumed thee from off the land whither thou go to possess it. And we know that the Deuteronomy, this was given to Moses and to the children of Israel.
Come.
But we've been bringing up a lot lately Deuteronomy 30:7. And let me grab it real quick. Deuteronomy 30 and verse 7. It says, and the Lord thy power will put all these curses upon thy enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. So of course we know that out of those 100 people, quite a few of them could have been Israelites, could be, but because again we're still under the curses, but these are transitioning onto our enemies.
Precept.
And of course, when you look at cruises, like the brother brought out 10 years or so ago, many of our people, couldn't afford the cruises and things like that. It's only within recent years that our people have made it a thing to where, they can go to these cruises. And of course, a lot of stuff that goes on in these cruises is just a lot of debauchery. A lot of sharing and intermingling, and so along with that, and then of course the food source and the water and like their bath systems, like how that actually goes through. They don't tell us how a lot of that stuff just be filtrated and all through, because there's been cruises where and there's a documentary I think even on Netflix or somewhere, but there was many cruises where the plumbing system went out and many people got sick based off of that because of flooding. There's been birds, like infestation of birds on some of these ships. It's been a lot like within recent years, like the brother said, that has happened on these cruise ships. You said you had something.
Yeah, I wanted to just bring it to your point. Just like you said, we weren't privy to have opportunities to go on cruises like that. Look at the places where it started from. It says Germany, Hamburg, the UK, the US, Japan, and Mexico and South Africa. And we know there's not a whole lot of jake on those. And then the disease actually picked up, once it came through the US. All right. The precept I had was 2nd Ezra 15, beginning in verse 5. It says, behold, saith Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. All right, and this is a plague. It's causing that illness. And he said upon the world, and that world here is oikoumene, which means the general inhabitants of the earth, which goes back to you bringing out Deuteronomy 30:7. The rest of the world is our enemy, and these curses are starting to fall on our enemies. It says, verse 6, for wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. All right, and we know that to be a fact right now. Everything is going on. It's not a day that goes by we're not seeing, some story that's just it's not surprising, but it's like, man, this stuff is really happening. Extremely wicked out here. All right, and the Lord is tired of it. Verse 7, he says, therefore saith the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness which they profanely commit, neither will I suffer them or have patience with them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. Yeah, and that's the prophets, first and foremost, complaining about what's going on. We're ready to get out of here. This stuff is, we got to sit here and watch this. Although it was deserved because of the curses, but man, it's like it's got to end. It seems like nothing is happening to these people for doing all this stuff. All right, and Esau Edom. All right, so these plagues are here. All right, and it's only going to get worse. Because like the scriptures tell us in Daniel 12:1, this will be like a time like never before, ever in history. All right, so this is about to get real bad out here. This is just the start. All right.
Yep. Oh, go ahead, bro.
This the book of Luke, chapter 21, starting at verse 10 to 11. It's the precursor to this, the header to this scripture says things to come. It says, Then he said unto them, Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines and pestilences, and fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven. All right, so he just backing up the point the brother brought out in Matthew 24. All right, the main point being the pestilences, man, which we know to be sicknesses, all right, and diseases and things of that nature, man. All right, and the scriptures tell you that these things are gonna come in the last days, man.
Yep.
All right, but we understand that there obviously there's more prophecies that have to come to pass before the end actually comes. But we know these are signs of the end being here, man.
Yep.
All right. In the past few years, man, there's been a lot of pestilences going around, man. All right, and soon, you're gonna start see these things happening even more frequently, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right, not just the pestilences, man. You're gonna see famines happen, all right, earthquakes and things of that nature, man. All right, all these are signs of the end, man. All right. You got something?
I just wanted to correct the statement I had made earlier. So I had actually looked it up. 10 years back, from 2025, back into 2015, and it says why I searched up deadly infection on cruise ship in 2015, and the AI overview says while no single deadly mass infection dominated headlines in 2015. It says norovirus outbreaks were common, sickening hundreds on ships like Royal Caribbean's Grandeur of the Seas, but typically resolving without fatalities. A more serious but rather rare risk is Legionnaire's disease, a deadly bacterial pneumonia linked to contaminated water systems like hot tubs that cause clusters of cases in travelers, including on cruise ships during that period, emphasizing cruise ship health risk. And you see these the Lord is bringing these common so like the Lord is bringing these it's still bringing these pestilence.
Yep. Yep.
So I just wanted to correct the statement I had made earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna. We should also note too. Here, what you just found. We got to remember this story here. This cruise. The one caveat that could make a huge difference is that this cruise is lasting almost 4.5 months. Versus it could have been a much shorter span on those other ones. Because that's that right there. They may have to stay out sea to be quarantined. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, check this. Did you have more?
No, I pretty much hit the point right there.
Well, this is a cruise ship incidences in 2025, including rising crime. It says 48 FBI reports between June and March, which is really like that season. It says numerous illness outbreaks like the norovirus, other several ships, various other events like deaths. And it says, let me jump down. It says crime. It says the FBI received 138 reports since January through September, including sexual assault, serious injuries, major thefts, with Q1 seeing 48 incidences, 33 SAs, 7 serious injuries, and 7 thefts over 10K. And so again, going back to the point, you started seeing like they were like stranded at sea, collides. You know, you're starting to see more and more like of that in the news than we have even in the past 10 years. You know, just through my own experience, you know, I hadn't seen that much, you know, watching the news. But just recently, it was in the news, a young girl who was, I think she was 18, 19 years old, and she ended up unalive on a recent ship. So that's been in the news.
Oh, and they found her like
And they
hidden or something.
Yep, they found her, and then finally that was going on for about 2-3 weeks, I believe, and then at some point they ended up finding the person who they have, you know, allegedly have been, you know, did the crime, and so that's in the news right now. You know, so just remember, back then the Lord has allowed for all these things to happen. And we're in a time where He's making Esau bare. So we're now seeing more and more of these things in the news media.
Right.
Yep. Is there more in the article?
Yep, there's more in the article. Okay, back in the article, like I said, we'll put a link to this article in the description box of the video. It says the CDC said crews also collected stool specimens from gastrointestinal illness cases for testing, adding isolated ill passengers and crew, and consulted with VSP, which means Vessel Sanitation Program, about sanitation, cleaning procedures, and reporting ill cases. VSP is remotely monitoring the situation, including review of the ship's outbreak response and sanitation procedures. A spokesman said, while the number of recent cruise ships outbreaks have been higher than in years prior to the pandemic, we do not yet know if this represents a new trend. However, CDC data show a newly dominant strain is currently associated with reported norovirus outbreaks on land. Ships typically follow the pattern of the land-based outbreaks, which are higher in this norovirus season. Okay. So that's the end of the article. Yep. Yeah, that's the end of the article.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else?
So yeah, those plagues are are here. You know, what is this? He says in Second Ezra 9, I believe. Slovakia.
Precept.
Go ahead.
Yep, go in with this.
This is Ezekiel chapter 14, and I'll start at verse 19. It says, "Or if I send a pestilence into that land and pour out my fury upon it in blood to cut off from a man and beast, though Noah, Daniel, and Job were in it, as I live, said the Lord Yahweh by Shem Yahushai, they shall deliver neither son nor daughter, they shall but deliver their own souls by their righteousness." You see, which Ezekiel 14 chapter is going to the various different four-sword judgments that the Lord Yahweh by Shem Yahushai will execute, which you have the Muslim beast, right, the pestilence we just went into, right, the sword, and the famine. But this topic being what? The pestilence. You see, and during Ezekiel's time, we understand what? That the Lord Yahweh by Shem Yahushai was getting ready to raise up the Babylonians to come against Jake. But we also know that with that also follows other various different judgments. You see, and in these times, what the Lord Yahweh by Shem Yahushai is getting ready to raise up the modern day Babylonians, right? Esau, even so-called white men, to come against you wicked Jakes. You see, and we understand that what? As we come into a time like never before, we're going to have all these various different judgments taking place at once. You know, be it the pestilence, right, the sword, right, teeth of wild beasts, right, never before seen beasts, right, and amongst many other things, man. You know, that we never seen before. You see, so we in that time when the Lord Yahweh by Shem Yahushai is heavily judging the planet Earth, right? As the book of Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter says, the just Lord is in the midst thereof. Every morning doth He bring His judgments to light. You see, so hey, right here we're reading about judgments that we do know about, and then there's some judgments that don't make the news, man. You see, but what we do know is that the Lord Yahweh by Shem Yahushai is very active in the planet Earth, man. You know.
Yeah. And anytime they put it nationally, you know, you get like your news breaks and different things like that. You know, it's a big deal.
Yep.
You know, but
like you said, told us to measure the times diligently. You know, when you get ready to see these things that He told us about in the past, He's about to visit the the world that he made. Second Ezra 9. All right. So with that, we hope this lesson was edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. Once again, we're going to give all praises, glory, and honor to
Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash.
double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who do well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and our fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, to use a shalom.
Shalom.
Kwam Yasharala.
Kwam Yasharala.
Abba Babal.
Abba Babal.
Shalom. We got next.